Are you wondering what's really happening in the North Atlanta housing market right now? Prices are shifting, inventory is changing, and there is a big difference between what you're seeing in all these news headlines and what's actually happening in our local suburbs. So let's break down exactly what this is and what it means for people who are looking to buy or sell in the month of November. By the way, my name is Brian Garside with Real Broker, and I help people just like you every single week who want to make the right move to the North Atlanta metro area, whether that's buying, selling, or investing. And I would love to help you too. Now, the best way to reach out to me is going to be either a text or call on my phone number or sending me an email at my email address. You can find both of those down in the description below. I'd be happy to get in touch and get your process started. But let's jump right into what the market looks like in November of 2025. Now, across the Atlanta metro area as a whole, but also the northern Atlanta suburbs, we're seeing a market that's balancing out a little bit compared to the frenzy that we had in 2021, 2022. Now, homes are still selling. Now, not quite to the same level that we had over the COVID years, but there is still a lot of activity going on in the market. Inventory is up year over year, especially compared to those COVID years. And median home prices across North Atlanta are starting to stay a little more steady than the steep inclines that we'd seen over the last 5 years. We are seeing a little bit of a modest seasonal change, and that will continue over the next few months as we head into January and February. But for the most part, prices are staying more flat than they have recently. Now, average days on market are ticking up compared to previous. In fact, you can see a lot of homes throughout the Atlanta metro area as a whole that are sitting on the market for multiple months when sellers are used to those flying off the shelves. In addition to that, sellers who priced a little bit too aggressively at the beginning of their listing process are now facing the reality, and we are seeing price decreases of multiple six figures in some areas. And overall, with mortgage rates floating in the low to mid 6% range, demand is staying quite balanced as we go throughout this year. Now again, it's very important to note that this market is still active. We are not seeing any kind of crashing, but more so normalizing compared to the last few years. Now let me share with you exactly what we have planned for this video. We're going to split several of the most popular northern suburbs into different categories and dive deeper into the statistics of what exactly those markets are doing here in November of 2025. We're going to be covering Alpharetta, Milton, Johns Creek, East Cobb, Marietta, Woodstock, Vinings, Brookhaven, Sandy Springs, and Dunwoody today. So if you're interested in some of these premier suburbs in the northern Atlanta area, you definitely want to stick all the way through and see which markets are healthier than others. But make sure you stick around to the end, because at the end I'm going to be giving my recommendations to buyers and sellers in the current market, as well as my predictions for what's going to happen as we go throughout November, December, and going into the new year. So let's jump right into our first category of homes. We're going to be taking a look at two of the more luxury-focused suburbs in the northern Atlanta area, and that's going to be Alpharetta and Milton. Now, luxury demand compared to more modestly priced homes still remains strong, and you're going to see that throughout some of these numbers. Now, the first thing we're going to take a look at is the median sales price through October of 2025. Now, all the data that we're going to be going over today covers residential detached homes in these suburbs, and as you can see here in Alpharetta and Milton, we are going to see a strong increase in the median sales price through these two cities. This time a year ago, Milton had a median sales price of just over 1.2 million. And here in October of 2025, you can see that the median price is just over 1.35 million, which is quite a strong increase compared to last year. Now, Milton, because it is a smaller city with smaller inventory than some of these other places like Alpharetta, is going to have higher peaks and lower valleys. With the amount of homes that do sell per month here in Milton, 2 to 3 homes can make a large difference in what the median looks like at the end of the month. But we do see a trend of housing prices increasing slightly over the course of the last 2 years here in Milton. Alpharetta shows the same thing. We're not having steep price increases over in Alpharetta, but it continues a small upwards trend. We do see kind of a peak here in October of 2025 at a median price of $880,000, whereas last year it was $797,000. I do imagine that peak will level out here and we will decrease again as we are heading into these winter months. But as you can see, there is another steady but small increase in median prices here in the Alpharetta area. Now, the next thing we're going to take at is the new listings here in both Milton and Alpharetta. The new listings in Milton did take quite a steep dive over the last month and is a lower number than we saw this time last year. As you can see, 31 homes were listed in October of 2024 compared to 22 this year. And that could indicate a slightly more pessimistic feeling of your average homeowner, thinking they might not get as much in this market. I'll be interested to see what that does over the coming months. In Alpharetta, we saw quite a strong increase from 129 listed homes this time last year to 154 in October of 2025. Obviously, you can see that this is very seasonal, with many more homes being listed in the spring and summer compared to the fall and winter. But overall, we can see that more people in Alpharetta are optimistic about selling in this market as those new listings continue to increase. Next, we're going to take a look at the overall numbers of homes for sale, and you can see that we've had a strong increase in inventory over the last 2 years. Alpharetta has increased its total inventory by nearly 100 homes and comes in at 354 homes currently for sale on the market. market. Milton has had a more modest increase from 86 to 106. But as the market has normalized and slowed a little bit, we may continue to see this increase in inventory sitting on the market. And that's largely due to this next slide, where we're going to take a look at the pending sales in both markets. Both Alpharetta and Milton saw a decrease in the number of pending sales this time compared to last year. Alpharetta last year had 81 pending sales in October with only 77 this year, and Milton went from 17 to 15. Now again, this is very indicative that there is not a crash in the current North Atlanta real estate market, but a little bit of softening in activity that's leading to increased inventory as roughly the same or a few more houses go up for sale each month, but fewer of those homes are going sold than we are used to. Now, as we take a look at the days on market for these homes, days on market is going to decrease in the spring and summer, where we see more sales and higher prices, and they're going to sit for longer in these fall and winter months. Now, in October, Milton had exactly the same days on market as it did last year at 20, and Alpharetta has gone up from 16 to 19. So not a market increase, but both of these are much lower than we're seeing across the Atlanta metro area, where the majority of homes are taking 30 plus days to sell. These are very healthy markets where well-priced homes are still selling quickly and buyer demand is still strong. Now, similar to homes for sale, we're going to see a slight increase in the months of inventory. Now, months of inventory just means that if we see a steady amount of sales, but no new listings come to market, how long would it take for the market to run out of inventory? Now, an average balanced market is going to be somewhere in the range of 4 to 5 months of supply. Any more than that, and you're in a buyer's market where they hold a lot of the power with lots of inventory available. Any less than that, and you're going to see more of a seller's market where buyers are competing for the same homes. Now, Milton has gone from 4.1 months of inventory to 4.8 over the last year, and so it still remains in a pretty balanced market. Alpharetta has gone from 2.8 to 3.8 months of inventory. So despite all the headlines you're seeing, it still remains in more of a seller's market, but trending towards a more balanced market. Now, finally, we're going to take a look at the percent difference in original list price compared to the sales price. Now, interestingly enough, Milton's actually gone up in this regard, from 95.7% of original list price last year up to 96.9%. And that's going to be more in line with a lot of the other major suburbs up here in North Atlanta. Alpharetta, on the other hand, has gone from 97.3% down to 95.9%, indicating that right now sellers are pricing higher than buyers' demand is willing to pay for. So even though we are in more of a seller's market in Alpharetta, buyers are still able to get a deal compared to the list price on some of these homes. Either way, both of these remain active markets with good demand that supports sellers, while buyers are still able to get a little bit of a deal on these homes. Now we're going to move on to two suburban-focused suburbs that are centered around very strong school districts, and that's going to be East Cobb and Johns Creek. Now, median price in both of these suburbs has increased over the last year. Johns Creek has gone from a median price of $691,000 up to just over $750,000, and East Cobb has gone from $534,000 up to $568,000. So again, we continue to see a slight but steady increase in the median home prices in these areas. Now, in terms of new listings, we're again going to see an increase in these two suburbs. Johns Creek is very similar to Milton in that there's not a lot of inventory to go around. It's gone from 37 last year to 46 this year. East Cobb, by comparison, saw a smaller percentage increase, going from 211 last year to 235 this year. Now let's take a look at total homes for sale. Johns Creek has had a slight increase from 72 last year to 80 this year. And East Cobb has had a very strong increase from 316 to 484. That's over a 50% increase in the total available homes in East Cobb. And it's actually seen quite a strong decrease in pending sales, going from 147 down to 107, which helps explain why there was such a large increase in total inventory. Johns Creek had a smaller decrease in pending sales comparatively, going from 31 this time last year to 26 this year. Now, if we take a look at the days on market, that's actually gone down for both of these suburbs. For homes that have sold, the average days on market have gone from 23 and 21 down to 15 and 14 respectively. Now, this shows us that when a home is priced and marketed correctly, it is still selling very quickly in both Johns Creek and East Cobb. And it outlines the importance of pricing correctly and having a strong marketing plan going into your listing. Now, if we take a look at the months of supply, both were in a strong seller's market last year at 2.1 months of supply. Fast forward to this year, and East Cobb has skyrocketed, going up to 3.4 months of supply. Johns Creek has had a slower increase, going up to 2.4 months of supply. Now, both of these markets are still technically in a seller's market, but they are trending towards being more balanced. Now, last year, Johns Creek was at 96.9% of original list price, and East Cobb was at 97.6%. Now, fast forward to this year, and they're at 97.4 and 97.3%. Now, both of these are still quite strong, stronger than some of the other cities that we're seeing, but they're certainly not going for over list price like they did just a couple of years ago. And deals are still to be had by patient buyers who are willing to shop around. All right, now let's move on to two popular suburbs that are more in a mid-price range category. That's going to be Marietta and Woodstock. In terms of median sales price, they've kind of gone gone in different directions. Woodstock has seen a slight decrease from just over $480,000 for the median sales price down to $475,000. Marietta, on the other hand, has gone up from $475,000 to $540,000, indicating a slightly stronger market for sellers in Marietta. Now, if we take a look at the amount of new listings in both of these markets, we see a pretty strong increase in both. Woodstock has gone from 117 this time last year to 146 new listings in October of 2025. Now, Marietta's seen a smaller increase in the percentage, going from 340 new listings to 402. Now, if we take a look at the total inventory in both of these markets, we see a strong increase in both. Marietta has increased 35% on its inventory from 577 up to 780 total listings. And Woodstock's gone up nearly 50% from 234 up to 341 total listings on the market. Now, similar to our other suburbs, total pending sales have gone down over the last year. Woodstock's gone down nearly 20% from 93 down to 75 pending sales. Marietta's seen nearly a 25% decrease from 236 down to 178. Now, this continues a trend in not only increased new listing activity, but decreased pending sales in these areas. Now, for these homes that are selling, we're seeing fairly similar numbers of days on market. Woodstock's gone from 19 down to 18, and Marietta's gone from 17 up to 20. Now, these numbers are similar enough and still much lower than the median across the metro area, showing again that homes that are priced right do not take long to sell in this market. In terms of months of supply, they're both sitting at 3.3 months of supply, showing a slight seller's market again. Now, these numbers have gone up drastically since last year, with Woodstock being at 2.1 and Marietta being at 2.5 months of supply this time last year. But in terms of list to sales price ratio, they've remained fairly stable. Woodstock's gone from 98.5% down to 98%, and Marietta's held strong at just over 97%. Again, for buyers, there are deals to be found in both Marietta and Woodstock, and we don't see the bidding wars that we once saw over the early 2020s. Now we're going to take a look at 4 cities that showcase a suburban urban blend close to the perimeter. We're talking about Sandy Springs, Dunwoody, Brookhaven, and Vinings. Now let's take a look at median sales price across all of these cities. Now, Vinings is going to stand out like Milton because it doesn't have a large inventory of detached single-family homes. It could be skewed by a few larger properties going for sale. That said, the median this month compared to October of last year has gone from just over $1 million to just over 1.5. But as you can see on the graph, that's a little misleading, and it does tend to hover more around the $1 million range. The rest have all seen a more modest increase. Sandy Springs has gone from $915,000 to $930,000. Dunwoody's had a bigger jump from $725,000 up to $750,000. And Brookhaven has had a 6-figure jump from $860,000 to $960,000 in October 25. Now, if we take a look at the new listings, they've all had a strong decrease except for Brookhaven. Vinings had a 25% decrease down to 6 total new listings in October. Sandy Springs decreased by nearly 50% down to 16. And Dunwoody's gone down 20% down to 12 new listings. By comparison, Brookhaven has gone up 14% up to 33 new listings. Now let's see what that's done to total homes for sale. Vinings has seen an increase from 19 to 21, so a very small increase compared to last year. Sandy Springs is one of the few where we're going to see a smaller inventory of homes than last year, from 52 homes for sale down to 38 this year. Dunwoody has gone from 24 to 29, and Brookhaven has gone up from 65 to 70. Overall, when you exclude townhomes and condos, none of these cities offer the same level of inventory that we're seeing in East Cobb, Marietta, and Alpharetta. Now, for pending sales, it makes sense that Brookhaven hasn't moved. It had 20 this time last year, and it remains at 20 this year. But we can see as we look on the graph that as a trend, it's been higher last year, especially leading through those spring and summer months compared to this year. Vinings has gone down from 5 pending sales last October to only 2 this year. Sandy Springs has had a pretty negligible decrease from 11 down to 10. But Dunwoody's seen quite a decrease, especially this month, going from 13 last year down to only 5 pending sales last month. Now let's take a look at the average days on market for these sold homes. Vinings and Brookhaven have actually had quite large increases in their days on market, more similar to a lot of the other cities in the Atlanta metro area. Vinings has gone from all the way down at 9 days on market last year to 32 this year, at over a 250% increase. And a lot of that has been over the last 2 months as the market starts to slow. Brookhaven has gone from 21 all the way up to 46 days on market, marking the highest city that we're going to look at today. Now, Sandy Springs and Dunwoody, they've actually gone down in days on market. Sandy Springs saw over a 50% decrease from 34 days on market last year down to only 16 in October. Dunwoody had a staggeringly low 14 days on market last year and has gone down to only 8 days on market last month, showing a very strong market for sellers who are looking to sell in Dunwoody. Now let's take a look at our month's supply. Vinings has actually seen a decrease from 5.6 to 4.2, remaining in that balanced section, trending more towards a buyer's market last year, but moving more towards a balanced market in 2025. The rest have all gone up. Sandy Springs has gone from 2.4 months of inventory inventory to 2.7. Dunwoody's gone from 1.5 to 2.2, and Brookhaven's gone from 2.2 to 3.1. All of these cities remain in a seller's market, but sellers don't quite have the same chokehold they had on the market in previous years. Now let's see what that's done to the percent of original price. Vinings has had a very small increase from 97.2 to 97.4%. Sandy Springs was in a bit more of a dip this time last year at 91.9% of original list price. That has stabilized just over 97% this year. Dunwoody's gone down this year from 97.5% to 96.5%. And Brookhaven's seen an even stronger decrease from just over 98% last year to 95.6% this year, showing that buyers have a little more of an advantage in negotiations than they did last year. Now, the big takeaway, the northern Atlanta suburbs continue to outperform most of the country, even with slightly longer days on market for some of these cities and more inventory to be found. Well-priced homes in desirable suburbs and school districts are still selling very fast. Now, buyers, what does this mean for you? Well, buyers finally have room to negotiate again. With a slight softening of the market, you have more leverage. Now, as we just saw, most of these suburbs are sitting around a 95.5% to 97.5% of the original list price. So you have more leverage and room to negotiate than we used to. That means there will be fewer bidding wars and more opportunities for appraisal and inspection contingencies. These fall and winter months are a great time to shop before the spring market heats up. And there are plenty of deals to be had through the holiday and the seasonal market. Now, interest rates are expected to stabilize, which means locking into a home now means refinancing later if the rates ever lower. But to be honest, if you've been sitting on the sidelines waiting for the market to crash, this is probably as good as it gets. You're not competing with 20 offers anymore, and sellers are motivated to move these homes before the year ends. Now, sellers, what does this mean for you? Unlike over the last few years, sellers really have to focus on presentation and pricing. Now, as we look at that list to sales ratio, homes that price within 2 to 3% of the true market value are still selling very quickly across these northern suburbs, sometimes in as little as 8 days. But if you price too high, you are going to sit 30, 60 plus days on the market. And it is so key to leverage your realtor's marketing strategy. Professional photos, video tours, social presence, and clear value positioning are so important in today's market. And that's where we at the Atlas team like to shine. With HGTV style listing videos and our 50,000 view guarantee on those videos, we can help you sell your home in today's market. So again, information in the description if you are ready to reach out and get that process started. We're in a market where marketing matters again. You can't just throw your home on Zillow and expect multiple offers anymore. The listings that win are the listings that look amazing and are priced strategically. Now, what are we watching for in December of this year? Well, inventory might seize up a little bit as sellers decide to wait for spring. This is a trend I'm already seeing as I'm talking to some homeowners who've decided that it's in their best interest to wait for March and April to list their homes. So if you are thinking about selling, you may see less competition if you list now compared to waiting for those busy spring months. Now, buyers can expect motivated sellers here at the end of the year and potential deals and bargains in December and January. It's important to watch local interest rates and job growth as well, as those will have a heavy impact here on our local market. Overall, as we move into December, I expect to see activity slow slightly, but don't let that fool you. Active buyers and serious sellers are still transacting in this market, and there are definitely moves to be made before the holidays. Now, bottom line, the North Atlanta housing market in November of 2025 is balanced, healthy, and full of opportunity, whether you're looking to buy, sell, or invest. Now, if you're thinking about making a move in the northern Atlanta suburbs, I'd love to help you make the right one. Again, I help people like you every single week who want to make smart decisions in the northern Atlanta real estate market, and I'd love to help you next. So go ahead and reach out with our information in the description, and we would love to get that process started for you. As always, thanks again for watching, and we will see y'all later.